How did all this get here? I mean, because if you think about it, everything we see, everything we live for, everything we do has got to come from something. I mean, even going to school, in 1865, the United States founded the education system, but, before that, in 1635, we had the first school in America opened up in Massachusetts. And in way back in 685 AD, Plato opened up the very first university of all the world has ever seen, simply titled the Academy. But, before that, the earliest recorded school was in ancient Mesopotamia in 2000 BC. And, but that doesn't even matter, because way before that, mankind has been teaching each other things and skills, and that's basically what a school is. But to be able to do that, mankind must have been able to communicate with each other. And before that, we were just mumbling Neanderthals, and before that, we were apes, and before that, we were microorganisms, and to be microorganisms, we must have life on this planet. That's water, that's air. But to have water and air on this planet must first be a thing. Earth must have existed before we, and the universe must have existed before Earth. What I'm trying to say is, for us to be able to go to school, the universe must exist first. But how? How did it come to be? How did it exist? And how do we even answer that question? The Big Bang Theory states that everything to ever be or ever was all collected together in an infinitely hot and tiny particle called a singularity. This singularity eventually exploded, and it became what our universe is now. This explosion was fast, and all this matter coming from this singularity started expanding away from where it once was, and this started the expansion of our universe, which is still expanding as we speak. But how do we know all this? Where's the proof? And there's a lot of proof. If we can prove the universe is expanding, we can prove the existence of the Big Bang Theory. Because if something's expanding, it must be expanding from something. If we reverse the expanding back, that brings us to that singularity that exploded and made the Big Bang Theory. So therefore, if we can only prove that the universe is expanding, then that proves the Big Bang Theory, and physicists have found a way to prove the universe is expanding. To understand the redshift of galaxies, I first have to explain the concept of the electromagnetic spectrum. So basically, let's say an object is this far away from you, and the light is bouncing off it and onto your eyes in a wave. This wave is making our brain think the color is green, But let's say this object is moving so far away from you at such a quick speed, these waves traveling to our eyes, telling our brain that it's green, is getting stretched out, which is actually changing the hue of the color of the object. So if it was moving so fast and so far away from us, the waves are going to be getting stretched out, and it's going to be looking more red. It's going to be shifted closer to the red side of the visible light spectrum. And that is the basic concept of the redshift of galaxies. The redshift of galaxies states that all these galaxies that we are looking at, all these galaxies that we are measuring and observing, are all shifted closer to the red side of the visible light spectrum. And we couldn't figure out why until we figured out that these galaxies are moving away from us at such a fast speed that it's shifting the visible light spectrum that we can see, making it more red. But why does that matter? Why does the fact that all the galaxies we measure are moving away from us prove that the universe is expanding? Now let's say we have a rubber band. This rubber band represents our universe. And this right here is us, and this right here is a different galaxy from us. Now, the space between these two galaxies aren't actually changing. They're the same distance from each other. And yet they're still moving away from each other because, redshift of galaxies. But how? Not because they're moving away from each other. The universe is expanding, which is making them further away from each other. So using the redshift of galaxies, this proves that the universe is expanding. And since we can prove that the universe is expanding, we can prove that it must have been expanding from something. This something being that singularity we were talking about. This singularity coming from the Big Bang, which therefore proves the Big Bang. And that's not the only evidence we have. What if the universe had always existed? The Big Bang theory can't disprove that, can it? But it can. And we have evidence that the universe hadn't always existed. We have evidence that there was a beginning, and this beginning was the Big Bang theory. Through the abundance of hydrogen and helium in the universe, we can prove that the universe hadn't always existed. Hydrogen takes up about 74% of all the universe's elements, and helium takes about 24%. Together, that's 98%. 98% of all the elements in this universe are either hydrogen or helium. And using that number, we can prove that the universe hadn't always existed. This overwhelming amount of hydrogen and helium proves that these elements must have been made at the start of the Big Bang, or the start of the universe, and all other elements that have been made after inside of stars and fusion. But these elements were made before stars even existed. And this proves that the universe hadn't always existed, it hadn't always been around, it had a start, and this start was the Big Bang. Cosmic microwave background radiation, or CMBR, is the fact that our universe has so much background microwave radiation floating around in space. Microwaves are light on the electromagnetic spectrum with really long frequencies. Scientists have been trying to figure out why our universe has so much of this abundance of background radiation, and only until when they theorized the Big Bang did we find the answer to this question. The supposed answer being that these microwaves are left over from the Big Bang. So where does this leave us? Somehow, these scientists have found a bunch of evidences proving this event had taken place 13.7 billion years ago that led to our existence. We have the redshift of galaxies expanding the universe, which proves the Big Bang, because if the universe is expanding, it must be expanding from something. We have the abundance of hydrogen and helium to prove that the universe hadn't always just existed. And we have cosmic microwave background radiation to prove that this Big Bang did actually take place, and we have leftover radiation from it. And all of these lead up to being a pretty strong theory for this Big Bang. And so that's how it all came to be. That's how it all started, and that's how it all came from. You, me, everything we've ever done, everything we'll ever do, everything we live for, everything we see, everything we say, all comes from the Big Bang. And somehow, despite it being 13.7 billion years ago, we have found proof for it, and we have proved it, and we even just know what happened that long ago. That's pretty crazy. I mean, think about that. But that's the proofs for the Big Bang, and that's how it all came to be. Thanks for watching.